And a very pleasant good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Defo on 5. Jeff DeForest and one Mike Lubie Lubitz. And normally we would label a Friday as a degenerate Friday, but Friday has already degenerated from yesterday's activity to the point where you may as well just call this show Dead Man Walking. And here's what I'm talking about. I consider myself, Lubie, and you know this to be true, that I'm not a terrible golf handicapper. Golf is a very weird game to handicap. For the most part, you're talking about a lot of favorites, but you have fields now, and they're going to be cut down to 50 or so because the PGA is reacting very, very strongly to whatever they have to do to combat the Live Tour. The Live Tour, I don't know if it's catching on worldwide, Lubie, but would you say it has created a total of zero point 0.0 Blutarski numbers in
Yes,
terms of buzz in the United States?
100%. No one's talking about it at any level anymore.
Essentially, they've taken some of the good players that were available from the United States and a lot of has-been washed-up European players. In fact, I think Greg Norman stopped just short. He was at the gravesite of Tom Weiskopf, trying to dig him up so that he could get more name value on the marquee there whenever they have a Live Tour event. And who's always prominent at the Pro-Am at the Live Tour? Ethan Skolnick's favorite president, number 45. Do I mention the name?
You don't have to. It's well known.
rhymes with chump, ladies and gentlemen. Rhymes with chump. But he's no chump when it comes to the Live Tour and the Saudi money and the golf.
Exactly.
Because of the Live Tour events, of which there's a limited number. I think they played like 9 events last year, something like that. They might have upped the schedule to 13, which seems like a pretty easy way to make $200 million if you're Phil Mickelson, right?
Yep.
I don't know that Phil has shot around that has been under par since he joined the Live Tour. So that's a lot of jack to go out there and just roll around the course like you were Arnie Palmer being featured in the last days of his life, tooling around the Masters golf course there at Augusta National. And it was always sad to see. I mean, they would show the first shot that Arnie took, a little dribbler that would go off to the right. And as much as I love Arnie Palmer, I mean, who needed to see Arnie Palmer drooling as they drove him around in a golf cart? And he was shooting an 86 on the front nine. I don't know that I needed to watch that, right? At what point do you just pack the clubs up in the trunk and say, I'm never playing this game again? Even if you're Arnie Palmer. But we've had some scores on betting golf. I first discovered it many, many years ago, and it was mostly about just picking winners in major golf tournaments. And I don't know, how many years ago was it? Was this the date of our last big score? It was not, but when we picked Martin Keimer, this was in conjunction, it was like on the same day as a World Cup event was about to get started with Brazil in their first game. So how many years ago was that? Is it like 8 years ago? We just had a World Cup, did we not?
Yeah. So it was
Probably about 8 years ago.
2018. Was it 2018 or 2014?
I'm going to go back to 14 because that's the last time I remember being hot at anything. But we gave out Martin Keimer with a little bit of handicapping insight to win the U.S. Open that year. And everybody, was calling into the show going, who the hell is Martin Keimer? And I had watched this guy, and he was starting to come back into form. He was a former world number one, although it was kind of a bogus number one because I believe the top guys were not playing at the time, and he slipped in there at number one somehow with the cockamamie permutations that they do to establish golf rankings. And that's another issue with the Live Tour. None of the Live Tour events count for any kind of golf rankings, so these guys have become even more obscure. When was the last time you saw Brooks Koepka on TV being interviewed? Used to be a prominent feature, right? Because he won all of the slams. He was great in the major events, and he was starting to become a dominant figure in golf. And all of a sudden, he kind of suffered and incurred some injuries, which would have great impact on a golfer, wrist injuries and things of that nature, and really hasn't been the same player since. So, I mean, and that's a great thing, isn't it? It was kind of like the senior tour for a while where, as soon as you turned 50, instead of being a has-been, a washed-up hack, you were a rookie all over again. And that was good for a lot of people. And they've managed to kind of find their niche and have some success. And if you're Bernhard Langer, you're very happy that they have the Champions Tour because he's won every tournament. Guy's 75 years old. He's still winning tournaments. I mean, you talk about steady as a rock, man. That hand is not shaking at all. But I got involved. We hit that one at 45 to 1. I hit another one that was pretty bogus because I feel badly about this. A good friend of ours, a professor, had Matt Kuchar to win the British Open one year, and I had Jordan Spieth. who was, I mean, it's like you talk about chalk. I may as well have just gargled with milk of magnesia at that point to pick Jordan Spieth. But the good thing about picking favorites in golf as opposed to the NBA or the NFL is you're still getting a pretty good price.
Yeah.
Spieth, as one of the favorites in the tournament that year, was 14-1. Now, would you sneeze at 14-1, Lubie, if you knew you could put $100 down and come back with 1,400?
That's
And
amazing.
all the guy had to do was win a golf tournament, and he was among the favorites, and obviously was somebody that was going to be a significant factor at that time in virtually every tournament. But wow, what a screw job if you were a gambler on that one. Kuchar is in the middle of the fairway on one of the closing holes, and Spieth hits one into a garbage dump. Literally, I mean, they're the things are glowing where he is, and somehow he gets a very generous ruling and ends up dropping the ball in the fairway right next to Kuchar, and then birdies the hole and wins the tournament. The professor was screaming, and I was very happy because I cashed $100 at 14-1, and I felt like the champion of the world. But now I got involved in these golf pools where, and it's ingenious the way these are designed. You have to pick 7 golfers. It's kind of like a fantasy golf thing. 7 golfers from 7 different lists, and it's impossible to have all of the top names. So what do I do yesterday, Lubie? I enter the contest, the competition. It's $50 to get in, and probably about 5 dimes to the winner. Well worth your time. And if you are involved on the final couple of days, every shot is fascinating. The guys that you have, you can't wait for them to hit the ball and knock it right in the hole. And the guys that you don't have, you're yelling at the TV screen, even though there's nobody else in the room. Miss it, Fatso! Miss it! Going crazy over this stuff. And every putt is of just magnanimous importance. I don't know if that's the right word. Of major importance. Let's put it that
Yes,
way. Magnanimous is something else, right?
it
What am I
is.
talking about here? It's early in the morning. But every shot all of a sudden takes on a level of significance, whether it's your guy or not, and it's fascinating to follow. Now, the big key in this event and in this particular competition is you really need to get out of the first couple of days with all your guys still in the field. So what do? I have a choice. We mentioned this yesterday on our show, our South Florida Live edition of the program, and we said, hey, between John Rahm, Rory McIlroy, and Scotty Scheffler, who would you take? You said Scheffler.
I did.
Every guy that we talked to said Scheffler. What
Yes.
do? I take Rory McIlroy, who had been hot, on fire. This guy. He double bogeys the first hole, ends up at +4. Scheffler ends up at -4. An 8-shot differential, one mistake, and pretty much there you have it, my friends. Dead man walking. Now, I don't even want to mention Shane Lowry, who's usually pretty consistent. I mean, he's a guy that you can count on. He may not win the event, but he's probably going to make the cut and be under par, and maybe somewhere in the top 15, 20. He goes for a +5. And I call my friend to say, hey, it wasn't a very good day. He wouldn't take my call. We were partners in the bet, and he never revealed to me who he has, and I don't even mind if he just wins the thing and keeps the money.
And even Rahm is still -1 at this point.
Right. You could not have made a bigger blunder. You could not look any more stupid than to take Rory McIlroy. So there you have it, as Gordon Soley would say. Just an ugly start to the degenerate week. So we'll see if we can recover. And this will be an interesting one today, Louis. As remember, I thought for some reason I saw like a bracket on the ACC tournament, and it looked to me like they had the Hurricanes starting out against Duke in their very first game, and I thought that's impossible. They have to play some form of patsy as the number 1 seed, do they not? I know they get. Do they get a bye, a double bye?
Double bye.
Double bye. Okay.
That's on Tuesday.
So they take on Wake Forest, the team that knocked Syracuse and Jimmy B out of college basketball this year. Jim Boeheim gets fired as the shots in the air from Wake Forest to win that ball game in the first round of the ACC tournament. Wake Forest, nothing special. Canes are up 17 in this ball game, and the Canes have become cardiac kids. Jim Larinaga, I don't know. I mean, he's going to need some kind of, medical procedure, I think, after this season. Although he's the epitome of cool, the epitome of calm, and never seems to be shaken by anything. And as he said after the game, I caught a little bit of the post-game press conference. He said, you know what? The thing is, we won. It's the old Jim Valvano thing, survive and move on. That's what you have to do. And that's what the Hurricanes did in the ACC tournament. Now, they would be an NCAA tournament team anyway, having won the regular season. I don't know that they needed to win any games in the ACC tournament to qualify for the NCAA tournament. It will likely impact their seeding.
Yes.
If they could win the ACC tournament as well as the regular season, you would have to think what number 2
2 or
seed,
3
maybe
seeds, yeah.
3,
I mean,
somewhere in there.
if you win the ACC regular season, the ACC is down this year, fine, whatever. If you win the regular season and you win the ACC tournament, you should be at worst a 2 seed. Like
I
you
would
just
think, yeah. I mean, and that's significant, right? Now you're taking on some weenie conference winner that's number 15. Yes, I know people. It's happened. And if it can happen to anybody, it could happen to me.
yeah, yeah.
Because I'd be all over the Hurricanes in that ball game. And the Canes have been pretty good against the spread, 18 and 13 against the spread this year. Had a tremendous upside record. Duke, on the other hand, 13 and 19 against the spread. But let's not forget this and lose sight of this, Lubie, because
Mhm.
you remember you didn't have this terminology when you were growing up as a kid, but in Brooklyn, if there was a situation that you were particularly uncomfortable with, it would be labeled, "Hey, you're a scared." It was a scared, not
Yeah,
scared. You're a scared.
yeah, that wasn't that.
And I would think you would have to be a scared a little bit of Duke in this ball game, favored
Oh,
by 2.5.
they're coming on.
They have rounded into form under John Shire, who I thought was going to have. I figured, obviously he's going to survive this season, but the
Yeah.
way things were going for Duke early in the year with all of their hamburger All Americans and French fry All Americans, you thought, wow, I mean, if this guy's got to follow in the footsteps of Coach K, it's very similar to. Do you remember? And I happened to get to know this guy a little bit when he was coaching at UCLA. But imagine following in the footsteps of the wizard, John Wooden.
Good.
And that was the fate of Gene Bartow, who later distinguished himself pretty well. In fact, did they not have the floor named for Gene Bartow at the University of Alabama, Birmingham? If you see one of their home games, is it not like the Bartow floor?
Maybe.
Which is that a great distinction to have the floor named after you, or would you not want your name on the marquee of the arena if they
Well,
were really going to honor you?
most arenas, even the greatest coaches of all time, don't have their name on the arena. It's usually the
Yeah.
floor, the field, the Bobby
Okay.
Bowden field.
Well, anyway, Bartow did enough there. I mean, I believe he resurrected this program from the grave. I think they were extinct there for a while, University of Alabama, Birmingham, and he brought them into a reasonable level of prominence for that level of school, and did well. But when he was at UCLA, he was crucified. I want to say he went something like 24-5 his first year, and they wanted to dump his body in the La Brea tar pits on a daily basis from the highest point that they could find, right from the Hollywood sign. Just toss this clown into the La Brea tar pits there, let him sink in there, and kind of rest with the dinosaur bones. But I mean, it was appalling to the people that the program had fallen off to that level. And you thought, well, geez, I mean, this Shire, he played at Duke. He was with Krzyzewski for a while there on the bench. Natural to assume the role. Although some people would said, how about a black guy? Not happening, right? And he's rounded this team into form. So they're a very dangerous threat, you would have to say, coming in as the number 4 seed in the ACC tournament against the Hurricanes. That game is tonight at 7:00, and I would recommend sound off if Jay Billis is doing a game. I would recommend that anyway, but especially if you're a Hurricane fan. My God, you're not going to like it. I mean, you're going to have a radio on with Joe Zagacki
to cover the Jay Billis
to cover up for Billis.
filth.
With all due respect to Joe. Oh, my. I love Joe. Now, Joe got me started at WIOD, so I'll always owe a debt of gratitude there to Joe Zagacki. I think it was very reluctantly he did, but nonetheless, we worked in conjunction on many, many a project while at WIOD before eventually I replaced him, which probably, I don't know. I don't think it created any bitterness, did it? What do you think?
Nah, none.
Well, it had nothing to do with it. That was going to happen anyway. I mean, the guy was going to get canned anyway at that point. And, I happened to be in the right place at the right time, which is what this business is largely all about. NBA kind of hurting. Anyway, that's going to be a good one tonight, I hope. I'll be pulling. I despise Duke like most fans do. Those beatings that we took and we had to put up with the insufferable Duke fans all of these years with Coach K, and they got every break, and they were recorded every benefit. NCAA tournaments, they should have been a 5 seed. They're a number 1 seed. Well, you know what? They had a couple of quad 1 wins there. You're like, you got to be kidding me, man. You're going to make these guys a top seed? And then you couldn't wait till they got knocked out of the tournament. I mean, there was nothing better than seeing Duke go down in Coach K's last regular season game as they're about to have the ceremony. And I don't want to use a word that rhymes with dick, but it's a very similar piece of apparatus. I mean, the guy grabs the microphone and then crucifies his team as he's being honored, which shows you. And I had sort of done a 180 on Coach K after having an interview with him, courtesy of the lovely and talented Leslie Visser. And we had him on. I thought, wow, this guy's fascinating. He really is. I mean, and his passion for the game of basketball and the United States of America. He may as well have been playing the national anthem in the background while we did this interview. Ba, 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 ba. And I thought, wow, my heart be still. This guy is really okay. And then he did that stunt there on, the day that they lost. What was that? Was that North Carolina that beat him? Last game in a regular season, and Coach K's last game, in front of the crazies there, the Cameron Crazies.
Yeah.
And before they're just going to give him a plaque and say, thank you, Coach K, for the wonderful years. And he grabs the microphone and goes, that was the worst, most pathetic loss of my career. And these players are going to never hear the end of this. Like, you're retiring, man. Go bleep yourself. Just leave the arena there. Take the bottle of champagne and the flowers and, go home, Coach K. That was enough. Went right back to being a rat face that he is. All right, I wanted to talk about the NBA a little bit, but we'll save that for another day. And actually, it's all about injuries in the NBA and injuries and insults. That'll be the title of another piece that we do here on Defo on 5. Injuries and insults. Zion, what's up with that hamstring, Lubie? Have you ever had a hamstring hamper you for like 2 years?
I'm not Zion. I'm not 6'4", 260 pounds, but this is just his thing. And people were worried about this, and it's come to fruition.
I'm sure LeBron James is endearing himself to some of his fellow NBA players by proclaiming that his 18-year-old son is better than most of them right now. He needs this guy to get in the league before he retires, right? I mean, he can't afford to have Bronny go to college for 3 years.
No.
He'll be 80 years old by the time they team up with the Timberwolves. That's going to be kind of crazy. And you got this war going on between Dylan Brooks of the Memphis Grizzlies and Draymond Green.
Who cares?
Which Draymond, he's going to fire back with something. And he just buried this guy on his own podcast, which is a nice thing to do. Many, many things to discuss. It's going to be a great weekend. I hope you guys enjoyed the program here today. Insults and injuries. Well, we'll get into that on Monday as we continue with our mission here on 5 Reasons Sports Network of Defo on 5.